this is the certificates that you could trade, or not exactly you, but the one that is allowed to trade in the EU ETS market. They could use these different certificates or financial elements. So there are several clearing houses in the EU ETS and offering different products. And you have in this list the different products. So, but as we described earlier, appear different schemes also, because the U.S. Citizens, some of them had good intentions to reduce emissions, so they created some voluntary market. And then the voluntary market started to expand. And there were initially an initiative called CCX in Chicago Chicago Climate Exchange is the name, that this month finished the operations because the cap and trade didn't appear in US. So they decided to quit, to close. In summary, we have in the EU ETS, up to now, up to 2012, is accepting CERs. There are other units related to the European Union. Japan government, for instance, doesn't have currently a cap and trade system. However, the government is acquiring in order to meet the target, because Japan has a target with also with Kyoto Protocol. The voluntary market, several schemes. You have some of them is promoted for TUV. Other is the golden standard. Another is promoted by AIDA, that is the International Association, Trading Association. So we are prepared for climate change.
What I thought I might do is just quickly go through some of the common acronyms here. And then as Alejandro continues, I'll create a sheet of paper, a little cheat sheet, run it over, get it copied, bring it back so you can all have it right in front of you and hopefully not get confused. But basically, there's two main subjects. We've got the market that does the trading, and we've got the credits, which are basically what are traded. A carbon credit is equal to 1 ton of CO2 reduction. You've reduced a ton of CO2, you get 1 credit that you can give to somebody else who needs to achieve a reduction. So you trade those. So in the markets, Alejandro went through a lot of different markets that are kind of kicking around, but really, as Kyoto begins to fade out, there's really only 2 markets operating. The primary one, which has most of the volume, is the European market, which is the European Emissions Trading Scheme, which is why it's ETS. It's abbreviated EU ETS. So EU ETS is the primary market where you sell credits into, okay? Smaller markets are voluntary markets where businesses who want to offset their emissions will buy credits in the voluntary market, okay? We won't spend a lot of time on this. So it's all about the EU ETS. This is really what we're talking about today. Okay? Now the credits are what you trade. And when we do a little game, we're each going to have little credits that we can trade later this afternoon. There's a lot of credits that these markets use, but the main one that applies to Jamaica falls under the Clean Development Mechanism, or CDM. That was a program that was developed under Kyoto that enabled countries like Jamaica to develop projects that reduce carbon emissions and then sell those credits back to the Kyoto Annex I countries and also the European Emissions Trading Scheme. So any projects that are developed in Jamaica will be developed under the Clean Development Mechanism, or CDM, if you're participating in the markets, and you'll be trading CERs, which are Certified Emission Reductions. I'll draw this out for you. So really we're talking about, this whole thing boils down to you generating CERs to sell to the European Emissions Trading Scheme. That's it. Just two things you need to know. Now, you may also, there's also the option to develop an equivalent credit under the voluntary market, which is called a voluntary emission reduction. But the projects are similar in nature. They just go through different phases of certification. So we're really looking at selling CERs to the European Emissions Trading Scheme. That's it.
And the certification can only be given by the Europeans?
That's happens under the UN framework. The CDM, the CERs might be a currency like the dollar. Big currency traded throughout the world. The VERs might be a smaller currency. It's not traded as much. The peso, exactly. That's right. So you can develop projects and sell CERs, or you can develop projects and sell VERs. It's your choice. This one takes longer, but the market's bigger, and it's more complicated. This one's faster, but the market's smaller, and the VER isn't worth as much.
Yeah, but you can sell in the VR market and then progress to the CER.
Exactly. And it's really, the VER isn't a market. The VER is your currency. Your market is like your peso, your market's Mexico. Your market is a voluntary market, which is why it's called a VER.
But what I mean is if I have a project
Yep.
and I get VR certification, which is fast, I can sell in the VR market.
Exactly.
Until I get the CER certification.
Exactly, and that's a common strategy.
All right.
And as Alejandro, the other nuance which Alejandro said, is you can also sell what are called primary credits under CDM, which are, in a sense, futures. People speculate, they buy it before it's finished, the registration, and they get a lower price for it. But if the project falls through, you know, they're worthless. So that's the risk.
Continue. The other one, the other market, is New Zealand. And New Zealand started to operate in 2008, just focused in forestry. But in 2010, they include the other sectors. Really, there were a delay because it was planned to start it in January 2010. New Zealand also have obligations with Kyoto. And the difference between the New Zealand view and the EU ETS is New Zealand is a fixed price, but also